Welcome back. Let's catch you up on a few stories that should be on your radar today. It is time for Rapid Fire, and here with their takes are Jon Fortt, yes, Leslie Picker, and Eric Chemi. Welcome to all of you. And let's talk about the basketball story we were just discussing with Tyler. Nike has been the official shoe of Duke basketball for nearly 3 decades, but that partnership may be under a little strain after Duke forward Zion Williamson, here you can watch the play. This is 30 seconds barely into the game, suffers a knee injury. Look at his left foot. His shoe tore apart against rival North Carolina. People had paid huge amounts to watch this game, to be there. The cheapest ticket last night was the same as the cheapest ticket at the Super Bowl. Is that right?
That was right. They were about $2,500 a piece. But there's only 10,000 seats in that stadium.
Right.
The Super Bowl had 70,000
But Obama
seats.
was there.
Obama was sitting there. There's a video clip. He's sitting in the second row, and he says his shoe broke. You can see his mouth whispering that right after it happened.
Have you ever seen that? How unusual is this?
It happens every once in a while, but this guy's a freak of nature, Zion. I mean, he's right now would be the second heaviest player in the NBA, and he's a college freshman. And he jumps more than anybody. He's just a freak of nature.
People say he's the next LeBron.
Yeah, he's a LeBron, Charles Barkley cross. So what he does on the court, no one has ever seen before. So him blowing through a shoe shouldn't concern people like us buying a shoe. I'm not concerned my Nike is going to fall apart. So I think the stock going down is an overreaction. I think everyone is completely freaking out. This guy's one of these guys that'll break backboards, but we don't think we need to replace all the backboards, too.
What do you guys think?
But this is a performance brand. The whole idea is, be like Mike. That's not the situation you want if you're Nike. Now, granted, there's so many Nikes out there, so many other players in various sports using them. It's not like people are going to think this is what Nikes always do. But to me, it's reasonable. Hey, they got to respond to this in some way.
99.99999% of the Nikes are fine.
It's a big game. He's a big guy.
But this is one person, and I've seen a lot of analysts kind of comment about whether there is product liability issues here, personal injury lawsuits that could stem from this.
This is a typical American ambulance chasing
I don't know if
overreaction.
Zion is litigious or not, but I think it's
why. Does he have a big Nike contract coming though? Once this guy, so he has to wait obviously till he's a pro, but let's say he's drafted #1, because I don't think this is going to set that back at all. He's going to get a huge shoe deal, isn't he? Wouldn't that be with
somebody,
Nike?
Whether it's Nike, Puma's been a player, Adidas.
He's going to go with Puma. Does anyone go with Puma?
They got a lot of big guys last year. They got the #1 pick. They got a bunch of lottery picks. They made a big splash last year. Adidas has James Harden. So it depends on where he wants to go. If he wants to be the star of his own brand, or if he wants to be the 10th guy in the Nike lineup.
But do you think this would sour him on Nike, or is there a chance for Nike to say, we're building a shoe just for you?
Depends how they respond.
And how much money they put forth to get him to sign, because now they may have more of an incentive to say, look, we're water under the bridge. We're all good. It was a misstep, but
Under Armour's got an opening. Hey.
Yes, they do. And they've paid up big time. The Steph Curry shoe was kind of a flop in the past. This could be a big opportunity for them. But it doesn't sound to me like Kevin Plank is throwing money at this the way that he used to. If anything, they're focusing more on performance apparel and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just one of these crapshoots. Whoever thinks he's worth it as an investment, it's like venture capital. You get a bunch of players and you hope one of them becomes a superstar.
He seems like a slam dunk. Well, there we go.
All these puns.
Yeah, I did not even mean to do that. Topic 2, moving right along. Reuters is reporting that ride-hailing company Lyft is planning to launch the roadshow for its IPO the week of March 18. That would put them well ahead of Uber in terms of going public. Leslie, what's the significance of all this?
The most important thing for Lyft right now is to be the first mover between the two. The reason being that it's the smaller of the two ride-hailing companies. Therefore, if you are first, you get the attention of the investors. You get to tell your story first, which is important for these unicorns that are looking to get these pretty lofty valuations in an IPO, up to $25 billion, according to some reports, for Lyft itself. And to be the first one, you get to tell your own story. Your performance is all that matters.
Spotlight for a little while, and for Lyft, that's currency, isn't it, John?
Absolutely. First mover roadshow. I see what you guys are doing.
Oh, I didn't even mean to do that.
The very fact that we're talking about Lyft at this kind of evaluation, such a huge win for them, because just a few years ago, people were talking about Uber taking all, blowing them out. Lyft has done these partnerships with the likes of Didi overseas. They've gotten
Carl Icahn.
Icahn was in early back in those days when people were talking about Lyft getting crushed. In a way, we'll see how this works out based on structure, but Lyft could end up being a big winner even down the road.
And now this is important too for Uber as well, because they're right now still, as far as my sources understand, going through that process with the SEC. So even if they wanted to go out in front of Lyft, they can't really do that at this point in time. But let's say worst case scenario, Lyft has a terrible IPO. The shares plummet on the first day of trading, never recover. By the time Uber wants to go public, that's going to be the comparably publicly traded company in the market at the time Uber goes public. So they could take a hit as a result.
Yeah,
if
for
people
sure.
lose money on the Lyft IPO.
But unless they get their first quarter and I don't know, it seems unlikely that but who knows, anything could happen.
I mean, the bankers are going to be very careful about pricing that one.
A lot of these bankers that are New York City focused, where Uber dominates, I think they're going to have their eyes open that, Lyft is a big player in the rest of the country.
Right, I'm always surprised
As you
by
travel the rest of the country, Lyft is much bigger than Uber relative to New York City.
And
So we'll see
loyal
what these Wall
customers
Street
who feel
guys-
like they prefer Lyft for I don't want to say cultural reasons, but right, it was like the nice Uber.
Personal reasons.
Personal reasons, yeah. Topic 3, President Obama offering a warning about deepfake videos on the internet.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things.
Except President Obama didn't even say that. That was comedian and director Jordan Peele, who created that video to warn the public about how convincing fake news and manipulated videos can be. Now Axios has an entire article created by AI that is both convincing as an article written by a journalist and completely false. John, I have to say, deepfakes to me are this is a pretty new phenomenon. People need to know about this.
It's a new phenomenon. The video worries me more than that Axios story did. The thing that worries me is people taking things that are 99% true and then taking that 1% and slipping it in and fooling a lot of people. I mean, we've seen these Jussie Smollett things. I mean, it's the actual real people with agendas that worry me more than AI that's able to come up with 1,000 stories that are completely fake that probably nobody's
When
gonna
you
believe.
think about the marriage of this with social media, with campaigns, with any kind of news event, and how quickly people could jump to a completely misinformed conclusion based on literally something that's made up, I find that kind of terrifying.
I think that's where brands are going to matter more. So you see such a splintered internet with news from all over the place. But if all these news articles can be generated out of scratch. But you think about earnings reports, most earnings reports now, those are auto-populated by computers.
That's true.
A lot of sports reports, the box score story after the fact, those are generated by computers.
But at least you know it comes from the Associated Press or something like that, even
right,
if
so
it's
the
using
brand is what
technology.
you have to trust because the computer is actually going to start doing so many articles
But do
going forward,
consumers
trustworthy or not.
I mean, it'd be great if that helps educate people about the sources, Leslie, but I'm not sure they're still paying attention.
It's difficult. You watch that video and you say, that looks like Barack Obama to me. Unless you saw the context and the fact that it's been put out and produced as a warning about this type of video, you're not going to know.
The text articles are more interesting because all you had to do, this is the AI, you write 2 sentences
and they fill in the
then
rest.
it fills in the rest because it's able to look at all the world's text, put it in a big database and think, all right, well, if you wrote this sentence, these are probably the sentences that come after that.
Who this should scare is high school teachers. All right, more
True.
than news consumers.
To writing homework assignments? Or?
You just
catching
keep the
the
first
cheaters
sentence and the computer will do the rest of it for you.
That's what I'm doing.
How do they combat that?
Well, artificial intelligence is actually being used to combat artificial intelligence on the internet. So it's like this battle of AI that's going to take place to figure out who's going to win. I actually was speaking with a hedge fund manager who said that there is a company out there that's creating this software that mines news articles to see the truthfulness of it so that people can trade based on what's true and aren't just jumping to whatever gets posted on the internet.
Going back
first.
to handwriting with a pen, no computer-generated homework
We will all
assignment.
be AIs one day in rapid fire. All 4 of us will just talk at you.
Before too long. Topic 4 is booze news today. Constellation Brands is saying that it expects only mid-single-digit growth in the beer market, and it will sell or discontinue some wine brands. The company, of course, was bullish on the cannabis market. What is happening, John, to this segment of the market?
I think it's interesting that there's this move. They're moving toward premium wines in particular, because just a few years ago we were talking about $2 Chuck. It seems like wine in general has become so popular in the U.S. finally that maybe there needs to be some distinguishing between what's good and what's not.
I mean, boxed wine is good, John.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
I don't know what
is it
you're
not-
drinking.
Why is it not selling? Is the lower
Exactly.
part of that boxed wine market moving to cannabis? Because if you listen to Constellation, that's the conclusion you come away with.
That's the question, because I would presume that the lower priced wines are more for the college kids than people just out of college that are, looking to that as a cheap way to have some fun on the weekends. are they buying the higher priced wine now? How has
we
the
talked about some of the
demographic
harder
changed?
liquors, the spirits, the straight. Remember we were talking about the new demographic, I think, for whiskey with Robert Frank the other day was millennial and pierced or something like
I
that.
guess they're putting their discretionary funds toward higher priced alcohol.
Eric,
these
your
days.
favorite CBD product?
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I figured. Topic 5, from booze news to cruise news. Norwegian Cruise Line is looking at smooth sailing after beating earnings estimates and forecasting full-year profit above current consensus. Now, with noroviruses, stranded ships, and other bad PR for cruises lately, who would have thought that they would be doing as well as they are right now? The shares are up today about 3.5%.
So Norwegian, there was just a video posted about one of their ships crashing into a harbor in Puerto Rico. So speaking of bad PR, you look at these headlines, and that's really all that encompasses the cruise line industry. But analysts say that the operating environment for the cruise industry is as good as it could possibly be right now.
Strong consumer.
Strong consumer. The supply of ships out there is constrained enough that they can really start raising prices on rooms.
Have you been on a cruise?
I have been on a cruise. I've been on a few cruises, actually, in my day.
But would you tell people to get on a cruise?
They're fantastic.
I think, yeah.
The Carnival CEO, when he's come by at CNBC, and he said, look, no one knows which brand is which brand, so we as a cruise industry want all the cruise lines to do well, because you'll tell your friend, I was on a cruise, you should go on a cruise. But no one remembers the PR of which brand did. No one knows, did Carnival crash into it, or who had the Norvus? I don't know. All cruises are either good
either you
or
like
they're
it
all
or you
bad.
don't.
Yeah.
Right, and I think cruises are great. I've been on one with the kids. It was fantastic. They absolutely loved
Is it a Disney type thing, or like?
It was. I wasn't going to give them. Yes, it was. But Zion Williamson should go on a cruise. I mean,
this is the problem. Everyone's freaking out about one shoe, but it's more dangerous to go on a cruise than to wear Nikes. Give me a break with
I don't know that. How many basketball players have a shoe explode versus how many people get sick? I don't know. Somebody do the math. But anyway,
Bring your boxed wine and you'll be good.
And everyone will have a good time. Guys, thank you all. Jon Fortt, Leslie Picker, and Eric Chemi. I see what you did there.